Following a disastrous 2022 season, Mercedes has made a concerning start to the 2023 F1 season. Pressure is mounting with Lewis Hamilton's title hopes in doubt. The speculation surrounding Lewis Hamilton's Formula One future has heated up, and the Mercedes driver has been linked to a team that he has previously been linked to. What's going on? Why are these rumors rising up? Let's discuss. There is a clear top driver on the shortlists of pending free agents for 2024 entering the 2023 Formula One season. Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion, most recently signed a contract extension with Mercedes in the summer of 21, tying him to the team until 2023. Given Mercedes' demise from Formula One supremacy amid a new era of rules and regulations that began in 2022, Hamilton has been in a car that is simply incapable of competing for a record-breaking 8th World Championship. Mercedes won just one race in 2022, after an 8-year streak in which they averaged nearly 14 per year, and Hamilton's personal 15-year win streak came to an end with his worst career result in the standings. He has stated that he believes he will win an 8th World Championship before retiring, breaking Michael Schumacher's all-time record. There will be speculation about the 38-year-old Britishman's future until the pen is put to paper. Anything less for a 103-time Grand Prix winner would be strange. Hamilton has expressed frustration with certain individuals discussing a potential post-23 move, and insisted that now is simply not the time to discuss an extension, but he was also recently quoted as accusing the Silver Arrows of not listening to his feedback on last year's W13 and thus this year's W14. A rumour about Hamilton's future has recently surfaced, claiming that if he does leave Mercedes, Ferrari will be his most likely destination. Ferrari has been the only team that has consistently been in the same time zone as Red Bull since the new era of rules and regulations began. Many believe that last year's self-inflicted wounds and errors cost Charles Leclerc and the Italian team at least a chance to challenge Max Verstappen and Red Bull for the title, and this isn't the first time. On paper, they had an opportunity to compete with Hamilton and Mercedes in both 2017 and 2018. Every few years it resurfaces, and nothing ever comes of it. Even though Hamilton has long stated that driving for the team is something that is a dream for everyone, Hamilton is the only one of the 5 drivers to have won at least 4 world championships who has never raced for the Scuderia. It is also worth noting that both Leclerc and Carlos Sainz Jr. are under contract with the team until 2024. Of course, teams have been known to terminate driver contracts early, most recently with Daniel Ricciardo at McLaren last year, so nothing is off the table. After the first round of the 2023 Formula One season revealed that Mercedes has once again failed to build a title-contending car, we look at how the sport's once dominant outfit got to this point, and where they go from here. The positive vibes emanating from the Mercedes camp during the off-season quickly led to pessimism in Bahrain, where Lewis Hamilton finished 5th and teammate George Russell 7th. Hamilton came in 50 seconds behind his great rival, Max Verstappen, who won quickly ahead of teammate Sergio Perez as Red Bull dominated. Mercedes was not alone in being unable to compete with the reigning Constructors' champions, but finishing behind Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin and Carlos Sainz's Ferrari left the team depressed. Hamilton, aware that his hopes of this year claiming a record 8th driver's title are already looking extremely faint, appeared to criticise his team for failing to listen to his views on car design, while team principal Toto Wolff described the Bahrain GP as one of the worst days in racing. With expectations well and truly tempered, we take a closer look at Mercedes' stunning regression as they prepare for the rest of the season. Mercedes dominated Formula One after introducing turbo hybrid engines in 2014, winning 8 consecutive Constructors' titles, the first 7 of which were accompanied by drivers' titles, 6 for Hamilton and 1 for Nico Rosberg. While Red Bull had proven to be a match for Mercedes with Verstappen's maiden title in 2021, a decision had already been made to implement radical new design regulations for 2022, which would theoretically allow for a reset of the established pecking order. Given Mercedes' consistent brilliance when the team unveiled an alternative zero sidepod concept during preseason testing, most assumed they had outwitted their rivals, who had more traditional designs and would begin a new period of dominance. It was thus a significant surprise when it became clear that they had been caught off guard by the new regulations and were suffering more than any other team. From porpoising, a bouncing phenomenon caused by how the 2022 cars were designed under the new rules. While almost every team suffered to some extent, Mercedes' problems were the most severe, severely affecting the performance of their W13 and the comfort of their drivers. They were far behind the leaders as Red Bull and Ferrari battled for victories throughout the first half of the season, and they were clearly out of championship contention long before the season's halfway point. Mercedes improved their car admirably, regularly outperforming Ferrari and coming close to victory on numerous occasions, before Russell delivered an uplifting win at the season's penultimate race in Brazil. The victory indicated that Mercedes had resolved their issues, giving their team and their fans hope that 2023 would bring a return to title contention. The relative improvement in form during the second half of the season turned out to be the worst thing that could have happened to Mercedes, as it was enough to convince them to stick with their much-discussed zero sidepod concept. Throughout the winter, cautious optimism emanated from the team's Brackley factory, with Wolff and his drivers striking a defiant tone as faith in the untapped potential of their concept remained. At their W14 launch on February 15th, Wolff warned they might start the season behind Red Bull, but was confident the car would eventually be competitive enough to fight at the very front of the grid. The second of 3 days of preseason testing saw Hamilton struggle for balance in the morning before Russell broke down with a hydraulic issue in the afternoon, but a better final day kept some optimism alive. Russell left Bahrain, where both testing and the first race were held, to work on improving the car back at the factory in the UK, and upon his return to the Sakhir circuit, he expressed confidence that significant progress had been made. "I think we had a really good time analysing what happened between the test and the race," Russell said ahead of the first practice. "There were a few issues with the car that we weren't expecting, but they were fairly simple to fix. We were simply working in the wrong window, so we'll make that change this weekend." But that would be the end of the good vibes. 3 practice seasons, qualifying and a race later, Mercedes realised their concept was flawed, and that their title hopes for 2023 were already in tatters. Mercedes' dominance from 2014 to 2021 was built on having the best engine, so one could argue that their aerodynamics department was never required to be the best. While it would be incorrect to suggest that their very talented designers and engineers are subpar, it is reasonable to question whether they have anyone who can compete with Red Bull's Chief Technical Officer, Adrian Newey. But you could say the same about any other team without his services. While there is no doubt that something went wrong with Mercedes' W13 and W14 concepts, there are also concerns that their engine is no longer the most powerful, with Ferrari and Red Bull both appearing to be more powerful following the sport's 2022 engine freeze, which remains in place until the end of 2025. Before the start of the 2022 season, teams were required to submit a final design of their power units, with changes allowed only to improve reliability or safety. Mercedes appeared to start with a highly reliable engine, whereas other teams, such as Ferrari, may have taken a more aggressive approach, producing a higher performance engine that they could then make more reliable. One possible explanation for Mercedes' missteps is the recent loss of key personnel. Former technical director James Allison took on a new role in 2021 that saw him step back from day-to-day duties. Chief aerodynamicist Eric Blandon moved to Aston Martin, and chief strategist James Vowles recently left to become Williams' team principal. Furthermore, Mercedes lost Ben Hodgkinson, the head of their mechanical engineering division, to Red Bull last year, as the rivals went on an aggressive recruitment drive for their new powertrains division, which saw around 15 other employees leave. It's also worth noting that Mercedes, one of the sport's wealthiest teams, is preparing for the 2021 implementation of a budget cap, which will prevent them from throwing money at problems in the way they might have in the past. Thank you for taking the time to watch. If you'd like us to make more videos like this, please subscribe to the channel and leave your video suggestions in the comment section.